Trump leading President Biden by 10 points in a hypothetical matchup if done today. The Biden campaign is sending California Governor Gavin Newsom to the debate as a surrogate to the second Republican presidential debate. It kicks off Wednesday night on Fox Business. We hope you'll join us. Joining me right now is civil rights attorney and Fox News contributor Leo Terrell and former New York State Senator and Democrat strategist David Carlucci. Great to see you both this morning. Thank you so much for being here. Leo, your thoughts ahead of this debate?
Well, it's a race for, thank you very much, Maria. The debate is a race for second place. Donald Trump is going to be the Republican nominee. And if you look at that Washington Post poll, he's going to become the next president. Let's be very clear. MAGA support is not a fringe group, as Joe Biden wants to say it. MAGA support represents over half of America because they're upset with Joe Biden's state of the economy, the crime problem, the border crisis, and the lack of military respect in our nation. Joe Biden is a disaster, and he will replace Jimmy Carter as the worst president in our lifetime.
Yeah, and I guess, David, the reason that people are even wondering if it's going to be Joe Biden at the end of the day is because of that. Are the Democrats now figuring out that Joe Biden's policies have been a disaster for America and that perhaps his mental capacity is not up to par to run for president in 24?
I think it's just the opposite. I think we've seen this poll, right? It's a 10-point lead by Trump. Of course, it's concerning, but on the same day, we have an NBC poll that shows it's a statistical dead heat. So the Washington Post has even said this is probably an outlier poll. But more importantly, I think, is this is a snapshot of what's going on right now. People are upset. Yes, they are. But when you look at who's actually trying to solve the problems that are facing people today, it's Joe Biden. Look at the Republicans. They're on a kamikaze mission to destroy their party. Look at Speaker McCarthy. We're facing a government shutdown. When that hits and 2 million military personnel don't get their paycheck, I mean, who's going to be blamed for that? Are we going to still try to blame Joe Biden, or is it going to be the Republican Party and the nonsense that's coming from Donald Trump? Look at the UAW strike. You have Donald Trump talking about protecting workers, just talking about it. Not an ounce of action in actually helping to protect real workers in the United States. Biden has been working behind the scenes.
David, I'm sorry, but that's actually not true at all. Yeah, that's not true at all, David, and you know it. I mean,
what's not true about it?
President Trump's policies put America first, and that's why we had economic growth. That's why we had job creation.
David, the problem is that those are everything you said is Democratic talking point. You won't talk about the southern border. I guarantee you will not discuss the southern border throughout this entire segment.
We can talk about the southern border. You will not talk
about the crime issue. You will. Well, then it speaks for itself. And the American people do not. Let me finish it. The American people. Yes.
Go ahead, Leo.
What do you want to say about the southern border? What needs to be done on the southern border is the Congress needs to solve the southern border issue. Joe Biden has come with a proposal, and what has Congress done? We've given leadership to Congress.
Joe Biden is responsible. Joe Biden is responsible for undoing what President Trump did. And it's amazing. Inflation is up. You have a situation where crime is rampant. You have homeless problems. You have a president who allowed 13 American service workers to be murdered in Afghanistan. But people do not believe Joe Biden. People of color are leaving the Democratic Party. People have a disrespect for Joe Biden. You know what? The media, the mainstream media can no longer protect Joe Biden. One other point. The union, Joe Biden is a pro-union management. Donald Trump is going there to talk to the union workers. Joe Biden's electric vehicle plan is going to decimate workers in the union. And more importantly, what's going to happen is this. The electric vehicle climate program is going to destroy the auto industry. You know that. But everything I just articulated, you have not spoken about.
Yeah.
You want to talk about everything.
That's really good points. Leo, that's really good points. But David, you just said that let's talk about the border. And the fact is during week one, when Joe Biden took office, when he got to the Oval Office, the first thing he did was overturn all of Trump's executive orders. And that includes remain in Mexico and all of the other policies that were in place that were actually keeping the border secure. There's no getting around the fact that the apprehensions at the border were at a 20-year low under President Trump, and now we're at a 40-year high, David. Joe Biden hasn't done anything.
Well, President Trump set up an unsustainable method. But it's unsustainable when you have Remain in Mexico spending billions of dollars to the Mexican government where we can't sustain that. You had people crossing illegally out of desperation. What we have to do is deal with the situation. We can list the problems. It's easy to do that, but we have to sit at the table and actually address these problems. And that's what Joe Biden has been doing. If we talk about...
How come President Biden is always trying to sell this, I'm a unifier? That's what he said during the inauguration, right? And yet he's done anything but since being in office. In fact, just the other day, he attacked MAGA Republicans again during a speech before the Congressional Black Caucus over the weekend. And he got it wrong again. Watch this.
Let there be no question. Donald Trump and his MAGA Republicans are determined to spread anger, hate, and division. They seek power at all costs. They're determined to destroy this democracy.
So what's the story, David? Why does he make believe he wants to unite us when, in fact, he's always throwing daggers at everybody?
I think what Biden is doing is he's differentiating between Republicans and the extreme Republicans that now have control of Congress. You look at the Freedom Caucus. They don't even have articulate demands. They're just like in a primal rage. They just want to shut government down.
David Carlucci, no, that's not true at all. We've been talking about all of the priorities all morning long.
You know, it's amazing. Ever since Biden took office, David, you have critical race theory. You have diversity, inclusion. People are selected based on race and identity. And you know what? The American people have rejected it. Why are the Democrats losing minorities? You know why? Because they reject the concept of playing racial politics. I'm old enough to remember when Joe Biden talked about Jim Crow 2.0. A total lie, because Georgia had one of the highest voter turnout of minorities ever. But that's the game. It's a race card game by the Democrats. And guess what? People of color, all Americans are not playing that game any longer. And you know it, David.
I give you a lot of credit for coming on the show, David, because it's hard to defend Joe Biden and his policies, but you tried.
There's a lot to defend.
Thank you so much.
There's a lot that Joe Biden's doing.
What? What is it?
Thank you.
No, go ahead. Finish your sentence. What was Joe Biden doing?
Yeah. Well, look at one thing. Look at the railroad strike that didn't happen. Look at the port, the strike that almost happened at the ports.
Have Joe Biden go to East Palestine. Have Joe Biden go to East Palestine, David. Have Joe Biden go to East Palestine. Have Joe Biden go to East Palestine.
Thank you, gentlemen.
When is he going to East Palestine, David?
Don't forget to watch the second Republican debate right here on Fox Business. That's this week.